Hello, my name is David Charles Rowan, and I'm a practitioner and trainer in neuroholistic therapy. And in addition to having a Master of Science degree in psychosocial studies with its focus on affective neuroscience, I also have an MA in cultural astronomy and astrology. In fact, I was one of the first 6 people to be awarded the MA, and have been a teacher and practitioner of astrology for 29 years. At the moment, in the evening sky, one can see the planet Venus. Venus isn't always visible. And I just want to show you this little video that explains the reason that Venus is visible sometimes and Venus isn't visible at other times. And it's partly to do with the relationship between the Sun and Venus and the Earth, but also the occasional appearance of the Moon. This first thing we're going to look at is just the relationship between Venus and the Sun from the viewpoint of the Earth, starting on the New Year's Eve 2019. And I'm just going to kind of step this through in increments of 1 week so you can see how, as the Sun moves through the zodiac and Venus also moves through the zodiac, that they begin to become closer and closer entwined. This is an astrological birth chart with everything removed apart from the symbol for the Sun, the orange dot inside the orange circle, and the symbol for the planet Venus, the pink circle with a cross beneath it, that are both fairly near the top of the wheel. The arrow on the left-hand side is the eastern horizon, and if you follow that with your eye to the right-hand side of the wheel, that's the western horizon. The arrow that's just slightly at this kind of angle, where I guess on a clock it would be about 5 past, represents the portion of the sky that's right above one's head at the time that this was being done, which was the 31st of December 2019, from where I live in Avebury, at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, it's the middle of the day. And you wouldn't be able to see Venus then, because the light of the Sun would have obliterated Venus. See, when the Sun is such a bright light that when there are any planetary objects near it, we can't see them. They're literally just zoned out because they're whited out by the glare and dazzle of our local star. They're still there, but we can't see them. But this is just to show you the movements of things for a moment, right? And then we get to the look of things in our next thing we're going to check out. All right. So in increments of 1 week then, just going forwards. So just want you to notice how long it takes for the Sun to catch up with Venus, and then what happens when the Sun overtakes Venus and goes beyond it. So let's begin on a weekly basis through 2020. So now you can see the gap between them looks as if it's beginning to widen. That's because Venus is moving very slightly faster around the Sun than the Earth. So from the viewpoint of the Earth, it looks as if Venus moves slightly swifter through our sky than the Sun does. Of course, it's all subjective, right? We are orbiting around the star. But this is how it looks from our viewpoint. And if we continue on a weekly basis, there's the Sun at the beginning of Pisces there, just about the beginning of February. And Venus has already moved forwards into Taurus there. And now that Venus is in Gemini, you can see the Sun is beginning to close the gap, right? The gap is getting discernibly smaller and smaller until we find just around the beginning of June. That's on the 2nd of June. So from the 2nd of June, if I just change the increments to days, and there you can see there's an exact catch up. They're both at 13 degrees of Gemini, and that takes place on the 3rd of June 2020. And then if I return this to increments of a week again, obviously once you get past that, and now the Sun continues at a swifter pace. occasionally planets make what we call a retrograde motion. They're not going backwards, of course, but it looks like they're going backwards. And so, because of this optical illusion from where we are on the viewpoint of observation, a ball going around a star with other balls also going around the star, sometimes it looks to us as if some of the other balls of rock are moving backwards. They're not, but it looks that way. And so that means then that the sun is now ahead of Venus. And it will take quite some time before Venus begins to travel forward again. There it is. And it's not going to catch up, not for a while, right? In fact, if I change that to months, then you can see through the months of the year that Venus begins to catch up with the sun again. And it's not until the sun has returned to the sign of Pisces again. In fact, that'll be in towards the end of March. We'll put it back onto weeks to get the exact date. We're nearly there. Oh, that's just about close enough. So this is the 23rd of March, 2021, before Venus catches up with the sun, and there you go. And it begins to go ahead of the sun again, or it's actually behind the sun. Yeah, you can start to see the gap beginning to widen a little. And it won't be until about the 12th of May next year that Venus will become visible in the sky once again. Now, the reason for this, I'm just going to use today's date as an example to show you. So bear with me a second while I just change the date. There we go. We've now got, if you look on the left-hand side, the 20th of May 2020. And I'm now going to change the hour so that this begins to represent a sunset. So, oops, here we go. The sun's going down, the sun is dipping down, and the sun is beginning to dip down. There. Right. Now, at this point here, let's go back just very slightly. Yeah. At this point here, the sun is beginning to set. It's approaching the golden hour where photographers can find everything is infused with a golden light. And Venus isn't yet visible because the light from the sun is still kind of glaring the sky and it's whiting everything out. You won't be able to see Venus yet. It's too bright. It won't be until the sun actually goes beneath the horizon. Just there, in fact, we'll get that to the absolute moment that it goes. And the sun is setting, and it's on the horizon line, and then the Earth continues turning. And so from our perspective, it looks as if the sun then goes below the horizon. Now, at that point, we start to begin to see the Venus. And the reason for that is that light from the sun touches the surface of Venus and reflects onto the Earth. I'll just get a kind of a highlighter on my cursor. Yes, so the light from the sun reflects off the surface of Venus, and then that light bounces, and we can see it from our viewpoint here on Earth. And in order to be able to see that reflected light, there has to be a sufficient gap between the sun and Venus. As we go through time, if I put this back onto days again, as we go through time, what will happen is, of course, that as we know that the gap between the sun and Venus is going to close. And so at sunsets, it looks like this. You'll start to find that it does seem as if, the sun and Venus are setting together. And of course, that means that there'll come a point when Venus sets before the sun. So there's Venus setting before the sun has set, and that's around the 5th of June. So we won't see Venus then, because as soon as the sun goes below the horizon, of course, it then means that, oops, too quick. It then means that Venus is below the horizon, and therefore it's not observable, because we need it to be above the horizon. All right, now I'm just going to adjust the software so we can also see this with the presence of the moon. Okay, And here's the position of the moon as well, returning to the 31st of December 2019. So if we put this forwards in increments of 1 week, again, you can see the Venus and the Sun making their movements, but the moon has now moved all the way around to here. So on the 31st of December, the moon is very close to Venus, and the moon will be reflecting the light of the sun because it's in its waxing period, its first quarter. And so there's a chance that the light of the moon could whiten out Venus a little at that stage, but not completely. As it progresses forwards by another week, now the moon is getting very close to being full. But it's not yet risen high enough. It needs to be around this area or closer to Venus in order to obliterate Venus. So although the moon is rising and it's getting close to culmination, the full moon would be obviously when the moon is exactly opposite the sun. We've got a bright moon rising, but it's still not enough to be able to obscure Venus. So you'll see Venus at this stage. Once the moon is past its point of full and it's nearing towards its third quarter, now the moon is behind the sun. So what would be happening then, of course, is that the moon is setting before the sun sets. And so that allows the sky to be clear of any of the luminaries. I'll just change the hour here so we can have our sun beneath the horizon. Oops, wrong direction. There we go. So now both luminaries, both bright lights below the horizon, and that means that we can see Venus. So as this progresses, I'll just put this on 2 weeks and cycle the moon around. So you can see as we go forwards in time, week by week by week, there are certain parts where the moon is very close to Venus, which would obscure Venus, and there are parts where the moon is further away from Venus, which allows the bright intensity of Venus to be seen, but of course only when the sun has just set. So there you go, there's our sunset. Although the moon is rising here, this is in April, the week after my birthday. In fact, I'm just going to go back a week. There. So around the time of my birthday, the moon was a bit too close to Venus. I might have seen it as Venus got closer and closer to the horizon. That's a possibility. So if we just go back one hour, there you go. So as or forwards 1 hour, so as the Venus gets closer to the horizon, the moon is still a bit close to it. Maybe might have seen Venus at that time. And so as we progress forwards, maybe we'll get to the current time that we're in now, which is the around the 20th of May, so we can see what's going to happen this evening. There we go. That's the 19th of May, which is the date that we started doing this yesterday. And here we go. There's the 20th of May. That's today. So now I'll just adjust the hour so that we can see where the sun is just having risen. Whoops, or set, sorry. Just changing the settings here. Just make it so the sun just goes down there. All right, now you will see Venus this evening because the sun, just at the moment the sun sets, you'll see Venus, but it will be low on the western horizon. It won't be high up anymore because it's getting closer to the sun. So by the time the sun sets, Venus is close to the horizon, whereas if there was a bigger gap, then when the sun sets, Venus is still far up in the sky. So we're in that period now where over the next week or so, the sun and Venus are going to get closer and closer and closer together. So when the sun sets, Venus will be setting as well. And at the moment, because the moon is getting close to becoming the dark moon or the new moon, it's renewing its lunation cycle as how it looks from our viewpoint on Earth, then that means, of course, that they're getting closer together. And we can still see Venus because the luminaries are below the horizon. Do that part again. So because the moon is behind the sun, it's getting closer to the point of being new, or the beginning of a new lunation cycle. At least That's how it looks to us on Earth. But the moon and the sun below the horizon, there's still enough elevation of Venus to not be obscured by the sun's light. So you should see Venus in the sky this evening, fairly low around the horizon. And this is at 8:55 p.m. this evening in the UK. So around 8:55 p.m., 9 o'clock, and over the next 30 odd minutes, you'll be able to see Venus hovering in the twilight. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at astronomy using astrology charts to illustrate it. My name is David Charles Rowan, and if you want to know more, you can find me on social media such as Facebook and Twitter, and also you can catch me on my website, which is rowanastrology.com. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at the dance between the sun and Venus and the Earth, with the moon as well. Take very good care. My name is David Charles Rowan. Thank you.